All right, welcome back, guys. And we are tuning into the Positive Deposits podcast where we transform minds to change lives. And today is a little bit different because I'm going to be sitting on the other side of the table, um, sharing my journey, my cancer journey. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, Presley, how come you're not sharing your journey? You got everybody else sharing their story. And, I was just like, you guys have a point. Like I'm encouraging so many other people to sit in their own hot seat, but it is important that people do hear my testimony. And at first I was just kind of like, am I just going to just go on live, go on Zoom and just do this and do it by myself, and it'd be like one of those Martin episodes in the beginning and the dark lights. And then I said, nah. So I was starting to think like I need like a co-host, and someone that has done this and is just really good at interviewing people. So I have on the show today, guys, Angel. She went to Howard with me. She's a dope entrepreneur, host, and we came in together. So I called her up and she said, you know what, I would love to do it. So before we get started, Angel, introduce yourself for the show. Tell us what you're doing, like what's going on, and then we'll switch gears and switch seats of the table, where you'll interview me, and we'll have the same kind of robust dialogue and get right into my cancer journey.
So hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Presley, and for thinking enough of me to help to bring out your story to share with your audience. So yes, went to Howard, love media, love interviewing, all those amazing things. But I really don't want to make this about me because it's not about me. This is all about the man behind like your show, your journey, and really connecting people to positive deposits and the importance of it, how the journey was created. And I think that journey manifested through your own personal story, your own personal trials and tribulations, and your walk through having cancer, beating cancer, having cancer, beating cancer, and now bringing us to this space where we can share your story. That's not just a story, but a testimony. So,
amen. Preach.
So, Presley,
yes, ma'am.
Even before we get into your journey through cancer, I want the audience to get to know the man behind Positive Deposits, the man behind Kappa Alpha Psi as a member, all of the amazing things that you have been able to do, the awards that you have won, the legacy that you are not only building for yourself, but for your child.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, like, I mean, we can even start at Howard, but as a child, like, how did you see your life unfolding? Like, what were your dreams that you wanted to always achieve?
It's so, and I wasn't ready for that, but I'm glad that you went through that, because we have to, kind of dissect this. And I know this is part one because, I got diagnosed twice. But when, growing up, it was, I wasn't even thinking about like college and things of that nature, like parents, divorce household, and so I started to try to figure out like just life, especially because being a part of a divorce household is tough, right? But I persevered, and a counselor asked me a question like, hey, what do you want to do after, high school? And I was like, I don't know, but she was like, you should definitely expand your education. And so I started to look at some schools, and my cousins said, hey, you got to come to Howard. So I was like, but why? They was like, Howard is where you need to be, and so I blindly went with Howard. I actually got into Clark, Atlanta. So I almost went to Atlanta first, but I didn't understand like financial aid. So went to Howard, and it was opened a whole different world. And the things that I saw, like from school days and stuff like that. So when I came into Howard, I just started to just go through what I wanted to do, which was engineering. But then I started to understand, like, I wanted to be not a face in the yearbook. You know, I didn't want to just be a face in the name in the yearbook. I wanted I wanted an impact, yeah. And so I'm a very outgoing person. So the first people you meet on Howard University's campus is campus pals. So I was like, man, I want to be a pal, you know? And so I went out in 2002, made pals, then became like the treasurer, then became, I actually brought in a group. So that was just kind of that entrepreneur, that leadership type of vibe. Unfortunately, I had to stay at Howard a little bit longer because I was very ambitious. One of the my childhood dreams was to be like Ben Carson. Now, knowing about Ben Carson now, I don't know if I would want to be Ben Carson, but I wanted to be, you know, a child neurosurgeon. So I had switched my major to engineering and then took on a bio. You know, trying to do the double, and it just didn't fit. The timeline didn't fit. But in the midst of that, I became a member of Delta Sigma Pi, the international fraternity Delta Sigma Pi Iota Rho chapter, where it's probably one of some business Black organizations. And so, and even in then, I took on leadership roles. I was thrown into be the vice president of finance, which is a treasurer, and then part of the pledge committees and things of that nature, but really stayed connected with the campus. And then Kappa came along. And so I wanted to be a Kappa before I came to Howard. I attended like a semi Kappa league, but it didn't work out. And yeah, I made Kappa. So everything I made for the first time, you know, and I'm blessed because a lot of times people have to go out again and again and again, but I always made sure that I presented myself and just really persevered. And so yeah, became a Kappa, became the first pole mark when it came back, you know, and then I went to the workforce, you know, where my first job out of Howard was at Deloitte. I was a forensic and dispute associate. It was new in DC, but then the recession hit. And from there, I had to navigate through being laid off and dealing with those trials and tribulations of that. However,
so you ended up in the financial.
Yeah, so how that happened is that so I got laid off in the first quarter of 2009, and it was one of those like last hired, first fired type of ordeals, and it was a blessing, but it was tough, you know, to go through unemployment and all that other stuff. But
I'm gonna stop you there because that to me is a major obstacle that society is dealing with right now. That as a whole, we may not have always known how to maneuver through some very difficult and trying times. And one of those times is related to economics. So how were you able to shift and say, you know what, I just got to roll with the punches and keep moving?
You know, it was one of those things where I had to get over myself, because when I got laid off, it wasn't fair. You know, I had a manager that was on my back. He didn't want me to get hired, and he was kind of upset already. So I wasn't surprised, but then I had to get over it because I wasn't making the same amount of money before. I was balling. Like I was like, oh, I got a $55,000 salary, excuse me. I had a 2-bedroom condo on Chilham Road, but then like when I had to get on unemployment, I said, dang, now I got to budget my money differently. And then that was an issue because the money was getting funny. I couldn't sustain my a lifestyle, and then I had to humble myself, and even humble myself to where I had to super downgrade, like to the point as years go on, and I was able to land a job. Luckily, thanks for my line brother Arenze, he had he was working at Wells Fargo Mortgage, and he knew of somebody in the branch, and so he connected me, and I got the job. But I had to scale back to where I was living in Trinidad and Northeast DC with a 1-bedroom apartment, no central air, 1 bedroom that didn't have no windows. Like I had to really like humble myself, because to live in DC is very expensive with no roommate. But number 2, I just had to think about like going through Howard, you know, like, you know, figuring out different hustles. Because I mean, I worked like 2-3 jobs while I was at Howard. So I had to really tap into my mental, right? And change that mindset, because if I didn't change that mindset, then I probably would have I might have been homeless. I'll be honest, because I just, that was the struggle. But dealing with the A building is a struggle.
Yeah. But let me say this though, just to fast forward us a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about the parallel between how you made it out of that situation? Because you just said it could have been really bad to the point where you ended up on the streets.
Yeah.
But have you ever looked at how you overcame that and how you overcame your diagnoses?
Yeah, definitely. I think about it all the time, and especially because, like, I'm a big believer that whatever you put in your mind, how your mental is, it is going to drive your whole body. The head is the captain of your destiny. And if you're sad, your body's going to feel sadness. If you're angry, your body's going to feel angry. So, that was one of those things. The parallel was like, okay, I've been through a lot through my life, through like the divorce with my parents, through navigating through Howard, almost getting kicked out, but still persevering through that, to now being laid off. And that was the one layoff. Then I got laid. I didn't even talk about the other I got laid off again from DC government in a contracting job. So that was, that was tough too, to feel like you got back on your feet. And then all of a sudden at the snap, 3 months later, politics, and you're back at it again, where you're now, I'm a teller at Capital One Bank, and on University of Maryland's campus. Like, I got a degree in finance. I should be a banker. Why am I, you see what I'm saying? Like a teller, but I had to eat that humble pie because I had to, just go through the process and trust that God had my back, and was able to maintain some things. And so, yeah, it helped because with when I first got diagnosed, and I don't know if we're going there. Are we taking it there? We're going there. So I'll just paint the picture. 2012 was an interesting year. I was 29. I was approaching 30, and it's CBC time. CBC in DC is lit. That's where you have to not only have a nice suit, but you have to be able to network.
And pace yourself.
Oh yeah, and pace yourself, because if you go too hard, you won't make it to 10 o'clock, because there's so many different events, and you have to kind of have your own monopoly map to which event you need to be at, because you could be at one event, but that's not the event, And so I was at I forgot the name of the magazine. I know my mans will be mad at me because it was his party. But it was at B. Smith's before it was closed, Union Station, and and that's when it happened. But let's go back a little bit. So I was a banker, and at that time I'm still good shape, kind of slim or whatever. I started to notice I started to pick up some weight, and so as I was picking up this weight, I was like, oh, this is great, because I'm tired of being skinny. I'm trying to build up some muscle so I can.
But weren't you working out though?
I was working out, but yeah, I was working out. Yeah, I was doing my P90X. That's when P90X was a thing.
So P90X.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. See. And so I was working out, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm getting the gains that I want. But then I started to notice that I could not like button up my dress shirts. Like it almost looked like I was at after work, where where you unbutton the top button, the tie is kind of loose, and so, but I could not button it, and I didn't understand why. And so on top of that, I started to get these migraines, and these migraines were very, very heavy. So I used to take Tylenol 3 for them, because Tylenol 3 is prescribed and it's very strong. So those nights, it just felt like a sledgehammer was just hitting me in my head. So as that's happening, a lot of cold sweats. So during this time where I'm like getting this weight, it looks good on me, but I started to feel these migraines while I was at work too. And so I didn't think nothing of it, and I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't go anywhere. And so then that was that. And so CBC comes around, and I'm at B. Smith's. I'm in my suit. You know, I'm just chilling, negotiating, trying to talk to this person, trying to get, you know, homecoming parties. I'm just trying to, you know, mix and mingle. And then in the midst of me talking and even, you know, drinking the champagne that was passing, it just hit me again, like the headache. And I was like, dang, this is crazy. You know, like I don't have the Tylenol 3s with me. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna just push through. Let me pace myself. So I go from B. Smith's to now the Renaissance Hotel on 9th Street. There was another event. And I was walking through the hallway. I ran into my man, Jerron. And he was like, yo, bro, you picked up some weight? Like, you know, like, all right, I see you. I was like, yeah, man, you know, just trying to play it off, but then obviously trying to push through the pain. And then I ran into my other line brother, Emmanuel, and he said, man, you don't look too good, bro. And he studies, he's a doctor now. But he was studying biology and medicine and stuff like that. And he was like, yo, like, seriously, like, you don't look normal. And I was like, you sure, man? Like, you know, and we're talking the hallway away from everyone. And as he was talking to me, the pain started coming back again, you know, the headaches, what I think was migraines. Kept moving. So I'm a person that I keep it moving.
Wait, you didn't tell him like, yo, well, actually I got these like migraine, like you didn't say nothing to
I ain't say nothing. I ain't say nothing because that was that pride. You know, I was very prideful because I don't like people to pity me, you know, and I'm just thinking it's just a migraine, you know. I'm not thinking of that I should go to the doctor, this doesn't look right, you know. But once there was an after party, you know, there's always after parties during CBC. It was at Adams Morgan, it was an art gallery. I was with some of my Sands, which are people that cross the same time for those that are not Greek. And we were a private event, and Josh brought me to this private event, and we were sitting there, and then it was too much. And it was so much where I was like, they were like about to take shots, and I was like, I gotta go. And at that time, my phone died. And I said, I need to find the nearest hospital. And luckily I knew about Providence Hospital. So I rushed to Providence Hospital, and I was in the emergency room. And it was packed, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. I checked in, of course, and the lady's like, well, it's gonna be like an hour wait. And I said, ma'am, I understand, but my head is about to explode. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I need to say I got a bomb, whatever. I don't know but like, and she was like, well, you need to sit down. And so I sat down, but after a while I was like, if I don't get there, I don't know what's going to happen to me. So, and it's really hurting bad. Like I got to get in there. And so I pressed her out, and luckily she kind of saw like the veins was coming outside of my neck. And she saw that I was so in distress. She was like, okay, I'll go back and get somebody, because it does seem like it's taking a little bit long. So I go back in the room, and I'm just kind of like, really don't know what to do. My phone's dead. I can't contact anybody. And so then they do the CT scan. And so I'm sitting in the room, and I'm like, CT scan. So what a CT scan is, for those that don't know, is that you actually stand up, you know, and there's radiation to do like an X-ray. After we did that, I was sitting in the room. I'm like, why is this taking so long? Because, you know, when you go to the hospital, you don't like hospitals. You want to get in and out, you know. And I was so scared about Howard Hospital, you know, at that time. It's probably better now, but Howard Hospital, you'll be in there. You know what I mean? Like, but then the doctor came back, and that was the cliffhanger, because the doctor was like, we did your scan, but you can't go nowhere. And I'm like, why can I not go nowhere? You have a mass about the size of this in your chest.
In your chest?
In my chest. He said it's literally, you know, it's growing rapidly. It's almost about like 6 inches. 6 inches in your chest. And so, and that right there was the moment that I broke down. Because when you say a mass, I watch Grey's Anatomy, you know, I'm very familiar with those terms, not in depth, I'm not knowledgeable, but anytime mass is involved, it's just usually cancerous. And so they were like, well, we're gonna have to keep you overnight. And that's the moment I had broke down, and I had broke down. I was just lost, because I'm like, if I have cancer, I'm 29, about to turn 30, and this is what life is. I started crying, man. I started crying. And I was pissed because I don't have a phone, right? You know, I can't call nobody. And that was a moment that I had to God, I think Phil, God was like, I need to sit with you for a little bit, you know. And I asked the doctor, do you have a charger? I mean, you know, you got a universal charger? He was like, let me see what I can get. And so during that time, it was just, I was by myself, me and God, just sitting there like, you know, here we are. And I finally got the charger. And I called one of my close friends, you know, and the first thing they did was pray with me, you know, and I appreciate her, you know, because one, I didn't think she was gonna pick up. I mean, it happened to be my ex, but we were always close friends before we, you know, crossed that line. And that was the first person I called, you know, I was the first person I called, and she said, hey, we gotta pray. You know, we got to pray. And we prayed, you know, I cried it out, but she said, you're going to be all right, but I need you to stay, you know, I need your faith to be strong. I need you to be strong. So, and then hung up the phone, and then I was just like, I took a deep breath, right? Because I still couldn't believe it was true that this could be something, but you don't know that until you get the biopsy. So I stayed in the hospital. I called my mom, and my sister, because they lived here locally. And so they were like, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And so I'm going to be in the hospital for a while, and they got to do some tests. So yeah, that was heavy. That was heavy. I felt like my life was just flashing like before me. I'm like, because you always hear about these things with other people, but when it's you and you're approaching a certain milestone as like 30, you're like, you know, why me? That's the question. Why me? We did the biopsy. I had to stay in the hospital that whole entire time. Did the biopsy, which is a small microscopic claw that they put in your chest to take a piece of the skin so they can test it. And they were like, whoa. After they did that, they were like, and I was in the hospital for a minute, and I don't like being in the hospital. It's just like, it's like cool.
Overnight, same day. Like when you say minute, give us some.
Oh, so basically, when I went in there that the 3 a.m. the CBC night, I didn't leave out of there until the 27th. So probably about like 5 days. I was in the hospital for about 5 days because of the size of that mass, they did not want me to leave the hospital. And
what was their fear?
The what?
What was their fear?
They didn't know what type of cancer it could be. Okay. They didn't know. So there was 3 diagnoses that they thought it was, where one was, it was just a cancer that, and I forget the name of it, but a cancer that is based upon all the junk that's in your body, you know what I mean? So that would be surgery. And then there was another one that they said they're not sure, but then they were like, it may be like lymphoma, but we're trying to figure this out because we've never seen this before. And so as they're coming in doing tests, I'm in the hospital bed, but I gotta shout out the support that I had. One, not only my family, my mother, Andrea, my sister Leslie, but then we talk about my friends, you know, and you know, Jeremy and like Taz and my Kappa family, they all came in, my Lon brothers, just came in and visited me. It was lit in there, actually. But when you talk about support, and when you're really going through some things, and the people that show up, you see what I'm saying? You never forget that. You never forget. You really understand who your true friends, who your advocates are when that type of stuff happens. And so, as I was in the hospital for these 5 days, it was very cool. But then also too, the doctor finally, kind of came back and said, all right, you have what is called large B-cell lymphoma. I'm just like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And basically, the large B-cell lymphoma is very rare, and we don't see cases unless the patients are like 50 to 60 years old. So think about that. I'm like, so I'm getting this early, mind you. They don't see this until I'm like old, and 60 is not old now, but I'm like, so, and I don't have any history of lymphoma in my family. So but large B-cell lymphoma, and you need to start chemotherapy ASAP. And I'm like, well, what does that entail? Like, how do I take it? Do I take a pill? It was like, oh, well, you got to do surgery. And the surgery is your port. So you have to get a port. With a portacath it goes inside your chest. It's like a button, they say, aka your button, but it's underneath the skin. And once they do through IV, the chemo goes through your body. And so I've never had any surgery. So that was another thing. I'm like, so what is that? And, go through the anesthesia, and then, you get the port put under your skin, and it's annoying. It's very annoying. But still, everything was just still, it was just like unreal. It was very unreal, very unreal. This was a lifestyle change, like chemotherapy. How am I going to pay for this? So thank God for insurance. My insurance covered a chunk of that. And, but I had to come out of pocket a certain amount as well too. And thank God for insurance. So I will say, for anybody, make sure you know what type of insurance you have for any type of emergency, because if I didn't have insurance, I'm going to have to tell you how much the hospital stay was. $135,000. If I didn't have insurance, I would be. That's why a lot of people are in debt, because of treatment. And so I had to start treatment, and that first day was very interesting, because you go in, you walk into the room, and you see all these people. They have their stations. You have their it's like a gas station. Everybody has a station. They're getting these chemicals pumped in them. Some people are getting iron, some people are getting chemo, but it was a lot of older folks, and they're looking at me like, why are you here? You know what I mean? Like, but then there was a younger female that was in there, and she was younger than me. She was 18, had stage 4 cancer. And so I was like, well, you always know, like, if you got it, somebody else has worse. So I had to go through that. And it was the first time getting chemo is not fun. It's 5 bags of chemicals being put in your body, and they need it. And I had to get R-CHOP. So R-CHOP is a little bit different than most. It's very aggressive. And there's a red bag, they call the Red Devil. And when you get that Red Devil, it's the devil, because your body's on fire. You're like, it's like hell. But that's what you need for that treatment. And so, but then I started to feel the side effects of chemo. And I was at work, and I was in the break room, and then I was just tired, because chemo, some of the side effects of fatigue, nausea, all this stuff. So, and I just did like this, and I was just like, dang, I'm so tired. And when I did this, literally like half of my head, the hair came out. So just imagine you're in the break room in the middle of your shift, you see what I'm saying? And you just like scratching your head or whatever. And then I looked and I said, boss, I gotta go, And he's like, why? You know, like, you got some appointments. I was like, all right, just come in the back. And I was like, this is why I gotta go. And he saw that, and he was shocked because it was like a big spot, you know, of hair. And so your hair loss is a part of, you know, chemo, the side effects. And then I called my barber, and I had to, that's when I went bald.
And but then your Line brothers, they also end up, or some of your close friends cut all their hair off as well.
So and this is why it's so dope. So Lawan, I have to give shout out to him. So he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, real close with my chapter. And, you know, he didn't have to do this, but he rounded up about five noobs that were close knit and said, hey, you know, Press is going through this bullshit. Excuse my French. Yeah, it's just this BS. And so we're gonna do something dope. So until Press is done with chemotherapy, we're gonna shave our heads. And I was like, you don't gotta do that. And this was at a happy hour. I was doing the Wednesday happy hour, Bar 7. Shout out to Bar 7. They definitely held me down during that time period with the happy hours and things of that nature, as far as like fundraising and such. Yeah, they cut all their hair off, and they kept it bald until I was finished. And so shout out to the noobs for doing that, because like that type of support helps, because going through cancer is dark, man. And especially when you don't want to hear the sorrows of other folks, because that's what happens. Sometimes they'll say, hey, you know, this person's going through cancer, I'm going to connect you with them. The first time that I actually had a call with this person, they were like, I'm going to die and I don't know what to do. And I said, it's already
not what I need to hear.
I'm not trying to be rude, but I thought this was going to be a more encouraging. We're going to encourage each other. And, you know, this may be the last phone call that I have, you know, just because it's like I said before, prior in the beginning, it's the mental, you know. And the thing that got me to persevere was going through Kappa, going through Delta Sig, going through PALS, going through Howard, and finding that inner strength to make myself happy, because no one can make you happy but yourself. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm still struggling, not in front of everybody when I go home, you know. And luckily, you know, I had a pit bull at the time. His name was Ali, rest in peace. Unfortunately, he had to get put down. But you know, it was nice because animals sense, you see what I'm saying, things, right? You know, and so I see many pictures as I flip through my Google Photos of where we were just sitting there. I got the bald head, and we're just laying there. But not only my hair, eyebrows, mm-hmm. mustache, mm-hmm. all hair gone. Not to get too personal.
No. Understood. We got you. So let's go back a little bit. There's a few places that I feel like we just kind of breeze past.
Yeah, let's go back.
And that very first one is when you were told. Yeah. Right? I feel like, you know, I remember when my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Wow. And I don't think that anything prepares you to be told, especially if you're young.
Yeah.
Prepares you for somebody telling you, yo, you got the big C.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if you can share with us what that moment was like, and don't jump to another story, because I got other questions.
Let's take it back. So it was really it was hard to it was a horse pill to swallow. It was at that time, when the doctor came in, and really good surgeon, I forgot his name, but he looked out because he kind of like saw me. So shout out to the Black surgeons and the people on, and the nurse that was on deck, because they control how fast things go. Mm-hmm. You could be sitting in there and you don't get no answers and you have to beg somebody. But no, when he told me,
it was a Black doctor who told you?
Yep, Black doctor that was on duty, and he was in the military, so he was like, "You're not gonna like this, but you ain't going nowhere." but I just froze. I was, it's like time just stopped, and I was just sitting there, and I was devastated, you know, like I was hurt. I was hurt because I started to think about my grandmother that passed of colon cancer, my other aunt that passed of cancer. And, you know, how come I didn't know this was going to come to me, you know? But then also too is like, what do I do now? What, like, I'm just now getting on my feet. You know, I started Wells Fargo again, you know, like going through all that now once again, God, I'm blaming God because I'm like, now I got to go through another struggle, you know, because I don't know what I'm getting myself into or what does this really mean? Like, what do I do? You know what I mean? This is life changing, you know, and this is messed up. You know, I was angry because I didn't want to be that person. You know, I didn't want to be labeled, you know, like, or felt sorry for, because, you know, when you hear cancer, you're like, oh, you know, like, okay, I'll be praying for you, pat on the back, the church pat, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So, yeah, that's
alone, right?
Yeah, I was by myself, and I didn't know what the next steps were going to be. I was so anxious too, because I'm like, let me know what it is, you know, like you think it's, you know, like you, but and then, yeah, I mean, that part of it, you know, I don't want to skip to, you know, but that part of it, yeah, I was stuck. I was really stuck in a dark place quick, a really dark place quick. Because this is a life changer, you know, like a lifestyle change totally, but I don't know how to navigate that. I didn't have the instruction manual, you know, like to prepare myself for, you know, such news. Yeah, it's just, it wasn't, and I was like, this ain't cool. This ain't cool.
So how did you pull yourself through? You shared the story of somebody trying to connect you with somebody and their mindset not being where you needed their mindset to be. So where did your strength come from?
My inner strength came from one, just God, putting my faith in God. And, you know, one thing about, you know, faith, you can't question faith. So you have to put those things in the air. So if I knew that if I can get through Howard University and the struggles that way, you know, if I can deal with, you know, just the layoff and feeling upset about that, and getting kicked out of my condo and things of that nature. God's not going to put you through anything that he knows that you can't handle. And so I had to constantly remind myself that every single day, because there was those times where I was just like, yo, I don't feel good. Like, this is crazy, you know? And so I think that helped me to get to be very resilient, you know, and persevere. And because it was a constant reminder, it was what I was telling myself. And I had to keep reminding myself, but also too, shout out to Angelica. Angelica was a friend, mutual friend that I met through Jeremy. And she would come and visit. She would, but she would treat me normal, right? And that's what helped, because I didn't have anybody. She didn't like pity me or brought it up like, well, you know, dang, I feel so sorry for you, just like the lady on the phone. It was more or less like, yo, let's go out to Truckaroo, or let's, you know what I mean? Like, what do you want to do today? You want to play video games? You know, to create that normalcy, because it was a distraction, but it made me feel good. And that helped me as well, because I was like, I can do this, you know? Okay, so people are going to, and I had to have conversations with myself. So people are going to ask you, why did you cut all your hair off, right? And instead of telling them cancer, what would you tell them, you know? And I said, hey, you know what? For those that did not want to know or whatever, I was just like, you know, I'm just trying something new. You know, I feel like MJ. You see what I'm saying? I feel like MJ. How do I look? You know what I mean? Is it cool? And so I just started to build my own confidence within myself. And then being a promoter in DC helped too. You know, the events and having that support as well. So I had a lot of cheerleaders, you know, but I did have some people that were upset with me because I didn't tell them. but that's what helped me get through, just the support and the mental cheerleading of myself. I would say that's what helped a lot.
So there was this one movie, and I'm sitting here and I'm like wrecking my brain trying to think of it. And it's actually one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Of the two friends, one of them gets diagnosed with cancer, and his other friend is just like, yo, like, this is what's been wrong with you. You didn't tell me, type of thing.
Yeah.
Can't think of the name of it, but there's a scene in there that reminds me kind of like what you were talking about, like when you were actually going through chemo.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, did you ever become close with anybody while going to get chemo and then they ended up dying? Was that ever like a thing that you ever had to experience?
Oh, like somebody else getting chemotherapy?
Yeah, like, so you know how you said it's kind of like the gas station. Everybody kind of in there.
No, so nobody died, but I mentioned, and I wrote this in my journal, the girl that was 18 years old, stage 4. And I was wondering, I'm like, well, her hair didn't fall out, like, because I don't know too much about cancer. So, but I had a conversation with her, and she was just like, yeah, this sucks. I'm 18. I have to do this, but, I'm going to be okay. I'm not getting any side effects, but that I should be, but I can push through, and I know you can too. And so this is someone that's 11 years younger than me saying, we got this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I never saw somebody die, but every time I saw her, it gave me like, yo, if she's going through this and she's 18, I know I can, fight this fight. You know what I mean? I got this, and it was so inspiring. And then she actually finished chemo before me. Because I asked the nurse, I was like, hey, where's such and such? And she was like, oh, she finished last week, but she told me to tell you, keep pushing and you'll be fine. And I was like, I wish I could have, just gave her a hug or something, because that was inspiring, to have such strength and not much fear, you see what I'm saying? At an age that young, like just coming out of high school, and you have to deal with that. And so shout out to her, because that was my motivation. That was really my motivation. But I never experienced anybody, passing.
That's good. That's great.
That's amazing. That's
But
amazing.
it made me think of that when you were sharing the story about, like, going in there for the first time and like going through that experience.
Yeah.
So we talked about when you figured it out, and had to deal with the diagnoses. We talked about how you were able to kind of adapt and the things that you had to do for yourself to ensure that you were okay, right? That spiritual muscle that you had to build, building your tribe, the people that you felt like you could trust and that you wanted to be able to share this experience with, and for them to be able to show up for you. I think where I would like to go from here is, on my show, I do something called like Moments from the Valley.
Yeah.
And we got like 15 minutes left. Yeah. And so I'm curious to know, from this situation, was there a point in time that we have not discussed yet that you felt like you were in the valley, that you did not know how you were going to get out of that situation? So what that situation was, how you got out, and then what was waiting for you on the other side?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I think the valley is a low spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, how you was gonna get out that situation. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so dang. So yeah, during one thing I can think of is that, so you have to always get checkups throughout the whole process. And after you get to a certain point, when there's no more, so after my 4th round of chemo, we did the PET scan, CT scan, and there was no more cancer. However, you have to finish out. You have to finish your treatment. When I had got that 5th treatment, because of R-CHOP, because it's such an aggressive chemo, I had to get it once every 3 weeks. If I got it too frequently, it would have been too much. Mm-hmm. When I got that fifth round of chemo, that's when I really, really felt it. I got extremely sick. Even coming from the session, and I was driving myself at the time, in the parking lot, throwing up, literally throwing up my lungs, and driving home, and then still being sick the next couple of days. Because usually when I get chemo, I'm good. And I have my Neulasta. Neulasta is a shot that's kind of like helps with the, protect the white blood cells and bring it up. But that was a low for me because one, there isn't any more any more of the cancer, but I have, like the side effects were tremendously, they sucked, like I was throwing up often, very tired, more tired than I was before the prior treatments. And there was times I was just like, I got really depressed. Because I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, there's no more cancer, right? But I have to get this treatment. But now I'm taking this treatment, like, and I asked the doctor, do I have to still finish this treatment? Like, why are we still doing this? And so there were times where I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to be bothered. My support was there, but I was just like, no, I'm good, and I would, that's the moments I would be crying in the shower, and until I think that it was the second week going into it, and I didn't go to work that week, and I had a dream. So it was like, I had a dream where it was me meeting me again. And so in the dream, I was still in a hospital. So, and came me, but I had like all my hair and stuff like that. Like, so I'm seeing another image of me, and I'm like, what are you doing here? You see what I'm saying? I'm confused. And my other me was like, why did you go so hard in the beginning to fall right now? And the me sitting in the bed was just like, I'm done. And then the other me was saying, you're not finished. You still got 2 more laps, which was the treatments to go. So instead of putting yourself down, you need to finish this race. And you need to run a little bit stronger and a little bit faster than you have. And so I woke up, and the dream was too real, because I woke up like, I'm like, okay, I'm not in the hospital. Okay, I'm not tripping. But I had to really just say, you know what? That's true. I'm blessed to get to this point. Yes, this part of it is going to be hard, but then I was just like, nah, I got to keep going. And that's when I started to kind of just like really be out there, with doing events. I'm going to the mayor's ball, just still living life, and then really just being comfortable just sharing my story, like, because people would call and I would be more excited and hype, and they were like, I called to cheer you up, but then you cheering me up. And my friend from Cali at the time, he was like, man, I was like, man, like, I thought that you would be kind of in the slumps, and you're not, like you really are, you're okay. You see what I'm saying? And so, and that was pretty much, that was that macho moment, or just me seeing myself, like, really bringing myself back to the same type of motivation, but even taking it a little further and not feel sorry for myself, because that's what I started to feel. I started to feel sorry for myself, and just that momentum started to kind of just go downhill. Yeah. And so it was that charge, the defibrillator, like, come on, wake up. You see what I'm saying? But that was a blessing. That was a blessing in that,
So this show is called Positive Deposits.
Yeah.
And through the valley, through the diagnoses, through the future diagnoses, which we will get to on another segment.
We will. Yeah, I know. It's time is coming there. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But there had to have been some moments of positivity, some moments of growth, some moments of inspiration.
Yeah.
Can you share some of those positive deposits with us?
Yeah. So positive deposits, and it's funny that you haven't been on the show, but towards the end of the segments, we talk about those things that are going to transform minds and change lives. And one was the positive thing about it was having a doctor that cares, making sure that that you are asking questions, you're trying to understand your diagnoses, because I think that helped me a lot to understand and really do the research. It was kind of like having your own class again, you see what I'm saying? But like really having those flashcards in your memory, so you pay attention to some things. Because one part that I didn't mention is that a radiologist wanted me to get radiation, and I was like, no, and if I didn't stay in tune with my doctor and I wasn't knowledgeable, I would have got radiation just because he said it, and I would have had heart damage. So thank God that didn't happen. So knowing your doctor and making sure you're knowledgeable, asking questions. Another thing is that never sell yourself short of your support system. Let people know, because you will be surprised how many people are in your village and want to support you and give you that love. I missed out on a lot of people, that found out, you see what I'm saying? They found out and they were pissed, because they were like, I would have never let you go through this by yourself. That's something that, and the Howard family is strong. So shout out to the Howard family, not knocking anything else, but shout out to the Howard family, because those people that I didn't share that, they was like, man, I would have been there for you. And so don't be prideful. Do not be prideful. I'm not telling anybody, for anybody that's listening to this, I'm not telling you to share with the whole entire world if you're not comfortable. But, let people know, the people that care about you, let them know, because those are people who are going to support you outside of your family, because family, you're going to tell them, right? And then I think last but not least is it's mind over matter. It is mind over matter. Whatever you put in your head, it starts to grow. It's like Inception, right? I don't know if y'all seen the movie. That small little seed can grow and grow. So for me, I had to say, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to make it through, and ain't nobody stopping me. And so those are the three that I can just drop right now. I know we're running short on time on this part one of this journey, but yeah.
No, you're great. I just want, from the positive deposits, right? Yeah. Now I would like for you to share how you have been able to translate that into other areas of your life.
Yeah. So I would say that after the first time, I was selected, to pursue to be a hardwood hero for Coaches vs. Cancer. I took that was a cool journey, because I was able to not only raise money for cancer, but I was able to really meet other cancer survivors that are just like me, or had some of the same diagnosis, but some similar to pursue that. And I went to Texas, to pursue that. Even starting this nonprofit, was huge. And I actually put this on hold this first time. So on part two, we'll talk about how this came to fruition. But even in just anything that I put my mind to, especially in the workforce, I've been one that goes above and beyond, and I'm able to see the challenges as just small little hurdles to just jump over, and then just continue to inspire others, around me, and be a mentor and be a part of the community, like with Kappa and just my younger frat brothers, and being involved and being that inspiration, because they're looking at me like, wow, you know, you've gone through cancer, you know, you're around, you're mentoring us, you're very active in all the organizations that you're part of. But that's crazy because most people that go through cancer, they kind of go, you know, dark, or they are in their turtle shells. They don't really talk about it. They don't really want to, you know, because they're like, I went through that. Nah, that's past me. But that's that healing that they are still holding on to. And so I hope that answered the question. Was that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you've talked about how you use that same strength to breed prosperity in other areas of your life. Yeah. So I think that is beautiful. And I feel like we have come to the end of this hour of
yes, we have. And so for those, this is part one. Part two will be coming soon. And we will have our lovely host, Angel, dig into the second piece of it when I had got diagnosed with stage 4, you know, so large B-cell lymphoma was this part of it in that journey, and we'll talk about that second journey coming soon. So until then, we are signing off. But if you are tuning in, just make sure you subscribe to iHeartRadio. We on Google Podcasts, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify. And then, you know, I'm going to ask of you, Angel, I want you to plug whatever you are on, you know, because you're a lovely host, and, you know, I want people to know where they can find some of your work too.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on social media everywhere. Angel Livas, name Angel, letter N, L-I-V as in Victor, A-S. You can also check out my documentary that recently was released on Juneteenth called I Am Black. It's a whole new platform with great content and information about really what the Black experience really means and what it is. So yes, that is me in a nutshell. Thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to interview you, Presley.
Yeah,
this has been awesome. And hearing your story is amazing and inspiring, not only to people who are going through the process or survivors, but people who just need to be motivated and to understand that there's always somebody going through something, that their story and their journey can help push you through whatever your situation is.
No question, no question. Well, we'll until next time, we're signing off.